Good evening, and welcome back to the Pastor Study. I apologize for the hiatus of 2 weeks with no uploads, but COVID pretty well took my voice. As you can tell, it's still a little bit hoarse and just now beginning to come back, but it's a whole lot better than it was. Thank you for those of you who have been praying for myself and for my family as we've struggled our way through this. You know, the writer of Ecclesiastes, Solomon, writes this in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 11. He said, "He, that is God, has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the hearts of men. And yet they cannot fathom what God has done from beginning to end." There's no doubt that we yearn for more in our spirits, more than we're experiencing in our everyday lives. Most of us, if we were honest, would admit, hey, boy, I'd like more money or more toys or a nicer car or a new rifle or something else in that realm. But sometimes it goes even deeper than that, more than what we have in terms of material things. When we see pain or when we experience pain, we yearn to be pain-free. We do almost anything to get rid of the pain. We see hunger around us sometimes, and we wonder why that has to happen in a world that pretty much has at least especially our nation, has plenty. We see senseless violence around us that ends in death. You can't help but pick up the paper or read the news and see the number of murders that are taking place around the country, and those numbers are going up exponentially. We see loss that could have avoided. Maybe we even experienced it ourselves. It wasn't our fault, but it happened to us nonetheless. And sometimes even tears that seem to have no end. We experience COVID symptoms, and I can certainly identify with that in saying, God, stop this world, stop this merry-go-round. I want to get off. I don't want to deal with this anymore. And then there's those wonderful moments that just seem to peek through the gloom that we sometimes live in. You know, things such as walking down the aisle with our soon-to-be spouse, or perhaps when we see our children born. To me, that's one of life's greatest miracles, is watching the miracle of birth. And for many, and certainly for me, walking my daughter down the aisle to meet her intended, and then being privileged to perform her wedding ceremony. There are those times, certainly, when the gloom is pushed aside and we experience those mountaintop experiences. And boy, would we like to stay on top. The song of the 1970s, "I'd like to live on the mountaintop, not in the valley below." How can we do that? Truth is, I don't think we can. Don't think we should, as far as that goes. Larnell Harris, about the same time, wrote a song that if I didn't have problems, I wouldn't know that God could solve them. I think we need to sometimes live in the valleys and experience God's work in our lives and what He does within us and with us and to us. But even more than that, God has given us imaginations. He's given us the ability to dream, to see ahead, to think ahead. And in those imaginations, sometimes we can see a bit of what He has prepared for us. Paul writes to the Corinthians in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 9. He says, "It is written that no eye has seen, nor ear has heard, nor mind has conceived what God has prepared for those who love Him." No matter what we're going through at the moment, whether it's COVID or some other dread disease or perhaps some other issues of life, God has something better prepared for us. And according to Solomon, He's placed within our heart that hunger, that desire for eternity with Him, so that we can, in fact, experience that better. May I suggest that you ask God to use your imagination, live in your imagination. Ask God to show you some of what He has prepared for you, yes, both in this life and in the next. As we focus on that, it will help us override the issues of the day. It'll help us override the pain that we see, the hunger that we see, the violence, the issues that we have to address, sometimes on a daily basis. And when we realize this is only temporary, very, very temporary, and that God does have something much greater, much better for us in the future, it really does make a difference in how we address the issues we deal with, how we face them, and realize He has called us to something better. He has called us to a step higher, to a higher plane, and has provided the way for us to get there. We may not be able in our own minds to conceive what He's prepared for us, but He can certainly reveal it to those who ask Him. And I believe He will, if we'll but ask. Have a great week, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week in the Pastor Study.